Good morning, Justin. Good morning. How's everyone? Good. The sun's up, as we see. I checked and Bitcoin's running. We can have our coffee and talk about the news. So, there was a time when I thought the former president, Donald Trump, was making a mistake. And it was actually in one of the things, morning audio innovation, it was one of the things that Trump was best at. So I regularly described Donald Trump, especially in 2015 when I first saw him, as an artist. I said, this is art. What we're seeing is art. That's why it's so difficult. That's why it forces people into an uncomfortable position. I would describe the modern world, the fiat world, as one where aesthetic took over as the important feature of art. We tend to get confused. It's either ugly or beautiful or those things. But you have to remember that for a long time, art was really about challenging the audience. And that's what I said. Basically, Trump was able to challenge people. And in that way, it made him an artist. And of all the things he was creative in, nicknaming people was one of his best skills. Just think about how good he got with Hillary Clinton. In the end, he only had to say the word crooked, and you knew who she was talking about. It started Crooked Hillary, and then he was able to even abbreviate it a little to being Crooked Hillary. Or sorry, just Crooked instead of Crooked Hillary. I mean, funny stuff, right? Funny stuff. But for some reason, I thought when he was nicknaming Joe Biden in the 2020 election, Sleepy Joe, I said, you missed it, Donald Trump. You should have called him Slow Joe because it rhymed and it was good, right? I thought Slow Joe was what he was going to go with. He ended up going with Sleepy Joe, and I said, well, he should really think about changing it and modifying it to Sleepy Joe. Well, if you saw the news yesterday, you'd know that I should never have criticized and questioned Donald Trump, because it turns out that Joe Biden legitimately fell asleep in an interview last night. Like, he actually passed out as he was being interviewed by someone. And the journalist, you can tell how in the bag these journalists are. He tries to coax him back to being awake. Like, come on, can you answer the question? He even lets out an oomph. And, who was I to think that I could brand someone better than Trump? What a silly thing. Sleepy Joe works. It's great. And like all Bitcoiners, we prefer our fiat US presidents asleep, right? So great name. We love it. Today, we're going to be talking about something that Justin shared with me last night. And I hadn't seen it, Justin, but of course it was everywhere this morning. And that is Rolling Stone has an article on Ye West's city. He's got this idea to create a modern city. They focus in the article, in this Rolling Stone piece, they gave it a few names. It's kind of a Yatopia, utopia with the Ye piece in there. They get into a lot of the branding that they're interested in, Ye stores, mushroom plastics, all kinds of different things here, right? But I'd say the thing that the article doesn't capture, which is something that I want to talk about today, the Ye-ecosystem, he calls it. It's a good name. That's good branding, right? We talk about branding and artists. The only one who's near Trump is this guy, right? They're very similar in their capacities. Very similar people in a lot of ways, really. So, they get into all these different things. But a few years ago, I was paying close attention to this. Kanye West was trying to create something called the Yeezy Shelter, which were these large dome structures. Now you think he's trying to create a house or what's going on, what's happening here. At the time, I said, if he gets this right, he's not just trying to build a house. It looked like what he was trying to build a house. What he was trying to do was build a home that was super cheap, super easy to build, and that could scale across the country and basically solve American housing issues, because of course, the cost of housing going way up in America and the ability to just get started is becoming more and more complicated. And so that's really what I see in this. Hey, Huru, that's really what I see in this Rolling Stone article about the ecosystem. Is that, and I saw this when I was in New York City, right? Just think about what's required, right? We're right at the start. You haven't missed much, Huru. You haven't missed much. We talked a little bit about sleepy Joe Biden actually falling asleep, but that was just our we tried to find the fakest or most ridiculous fiat story, the most clowny world story to start our show. So that was the clowniest story I could see today. But we jumped right into the Rolling Stone article that Justin shared with me last night and sort of filtering around everywhere today about the ecosystem and this beautiful town that Ye West has in mind and the vision for it. So I remembered following this a couple of years ago when it started, and I mentioned it was this Yeezy shelter. And I said, if this is right, that's the first time I ever said that perhaps Ye West's destiny was even much greater than president. Like president of the United States would be below what he's capable of if he gets this Yeezy shelter right. I said it at the time. At the time, I saw the Yeezy shelter thing, and I said, this was, this was going to change everything, right? Yeah, Justin says it was my the Biden story is my cold open. Yeah, I try. That's what we try to do. I try to do a cold open with some of these stories sometimes. That's my system, right? It just helps me get going. So the ecosystem, the city, all the stuff. What's interesting about it? So he tried it before. I said he could be bigger than president if he gets this right. But here's the thing. Just coming back from New York City and seeing even now the prices of things going up and how crazy things are becoming. And, I'm someone who, I make enough money. I started my family in New York City. But you stop and think about it. What is required for normal people to just start their life in New York City right now? It's almost impossible. Forget about an IQ of 130. It's even higher now. I mean, apartments just to rent $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a basic place in an unsafe neighborhood. Imagine. And now forget about getting into school and all these things. What we see now is that life has just become so complicated. I mean, every little thing is so difficult. You need to be superhuman just to have a normal life, right? That's a lot about why we are interested in Bitcoin and why we Bitcoin, because one thing we're trying to do is sort of take down the overall capacity required to enjoy your life, right? We don't want this to be we don't want the modern life or to live the best life that our modern system can provide to only be available to a few people. So what Bitcoiners are hoping, and from what I see from what Kanye West is suggesting here, he's trying to make a city where all of these services just come with living there. And you can kind of look at it this way. When you take a look at living conditions in America right now, you're caught between almost two extremes. You need to have a 17,000 square foot, massive mansion with people helping you and wealth and all your logistics taken care of. Or the other one that Americans always think fondly of and love is their actual college dorm, right? College dorms and all these things. So it's like live in a college dorm where everything's taken care of for you. And people have such fond memories of their time in college dorms in America because all your friends are down the hall. You can go here, you can go there. Very simple way to live. And that's why people love it, right? Everything's kind of taken care of for you. You can go to your cafeteria. There's all kinds of food there. You can choose this, you can choose that. Everything's cleaned up for you. Everything's arranged for you. You might not have a kitchen in your room. You might not have even a shower in your room, maybe not even a toilet, some of the ways that they've built these things over time. But nevertheless, people think of them in such fond terms, and it looks like people love living in these places. So what I see Kanye doing here is basically getting in the middle of these two extremes, right? Like, why is it in America that you have to be either in college, living in a dorm, to have an experience that looks great and is attractive, or the other extreme, which is being so wealthy that you have got some mansion and all the people to help you and all the attendant stuff you might require. But even Rolling Stone comes out and says this quote: West's vision is on par with Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos. another source says, adding that West is adamant on creating something equally as world-changing. This is the quote. He's trying to do shit that people couldn't even conceive of, and he's trying to make it happen, they explain. He comes from a good place. It's definitely his goal that everything that people touch that's his is a good thing and has a good impact on the world. So again, they focused on a lot of pieces around, you know, he would have like movie theaters and everything branded. And I think that's the fiat mind just applying its filter. And you know, we shouldn't expect Rolling Stone journalists to, you know, be able to picture the future as accurately as Kanye West does, because that's what he's doing here, right? He's literally carving the future out of stone. But they got it right by saying the vision is on par with Steve Jobs. They're quoting someone, but that's really the effect, right? If we can solve housing as it is, if we can solve towns, if we can rebuild a lot of the way we interact and work together, we can solve a lot of problems. Because what we have to remember, Huru, this article is post the Twitter ban. Yeah, this is from today. This is a brand new article. This is brand new. And it's actually even trending this morning. That's one reason why I brought it up today. We try not to use old news on the show, so we think this is a pretty interesting thing. So yeah, all of a sudden, it's almost a different take on Ye West from what we've heard mainstream media talking about. They actually gave him a lot of credit in here, more than you'd think. They talk about everyone dumping him, and Valencia, I guess, just dumped him, and they talk a bit about the people who are no longer with him. But in this thing, he's got schooling taken care of, he's got childcare taken care of, and what we're really we'll get to the Google Drive story in a second too. That's on the agenda today for sure, and the Drink Champs interview, absolutely. I just saw Justin in the comments mention about the Google Drive story. Yeah, well, I'll just tell it right now. If anyone didn't know, someone in their Google Drive had tried to pull or download the Kanye West interview on Drink Champs. Even on Google Drive, it was taken away, right? The cloud storage system, which is, right? We'll put it in some context, but you don't really need much more context than that, right? So that's about all you need. So what we see here is Kanye West saying we're going to solve all these problems, because what we remember is, loneliness is probably the biggest issue we're facing these days. I mean, people are so lonely. And it's not really spoken about enough, right? But that's where a lot of this drug addiction stuff is definitely coming from, and just people's unsatisfied lives, right? There's a real lack of community and feeling like you're part of America, a community, a town, right? Everything is so stressed that people are just, not feeling that connection as much as they used to. And like I said, the IQ level required to just live that normal life now is too hard. We mentioned a few weeks ago on the show, someone just talking about how they couldn't get your basic, this was like a late teens, early 20s person working in a restaurant with a girlfriend in the next town over. Basically the most typical American experience you can describe. That's almost everybody, right? That works in a restaurant at that age, has a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever in another town over, and then they're doing stuff, and then they work their shifts and meet and have fun and all that kind of stuff. So when we described that situation a few weeks ago, where a person on Reddit said, I can't even buy a car anymore because used cars have gone way up in price, and just buying that $1,000 or $2,000 beater is impossible. So this guy was describing how between his shifts and the public transit he's got to take to get to work, which is an hour and a half, 2 hours each time, plus the extra 45 minutes to get to his partner in the next town, meant he can't even have a girlfriend, right? No car, no girlfriend, and busing back and forth to a fast food joint or whatever kind of restaurant he's working in, right? So what used to be a totally acceptable lifestyle, and actually great, right? You work in a restaurant, make some tips, have a partner, build some wealth, buy a house, maybe get a different job after, typical American experience for the last 30 years, 40, 50 years. Gone, not possible. And what West's plan here offers is a solution to that, right? It's a solution to those, Huru says, it's a solution to this problem. I can't stop thinking of the comparison 2 days ago with Brave New World and Biden. I'm starting to think they really take their recipes straight out of the old futures. It could be, yeah. It's well, don't forget, right? Aldous Huxley perceived this stuff, right? He did the conscious breaking drugs and total ego death, and sometimes you get pretty accurate visions of the future. And you know, I can't think of one that's more accurate today than that. So we have this special city, we have this special plan, and you know, if you think about this city and this plan and how much simpler it can make life, right? It can start to get into the world of communism, right? We can start to get into the world of what we see over in China, perhaps, right? Because what he's basically saying is someone else is going to be in charge of all of this stuff, and you know, do your best to access it. Well, there's another way to see that, right? There's another way to see that, and that is if you change the money, right? If you change the money, you can start to get to a totally different outcome, because that's what this show is all about. That it's all about relationships. It's all about the outcomes built from commercial relationships that either lead to dollars or lead to Bitcoin. And when you think about a dollar store nation, right, a nation that stores dollars, saves dollars, China would even be among that group, right? We've seen the yuan struggle the past few days, but they have bought so much US T-bills, debt. They have so many US dollars, and they've been storing those to stabilize their own economy and to manipulate their own currency so that they can deal with America on unfair terms and export all of their dollar store stuff, because they're a dollar store nation, just like America, right? Dollar store nations that store dollars and end up with too many dollar stores, right? Because inevitably that's what this trash money does to you, right? That's why we are so interested in time preference. We're so interested as Bitcoiners in lowering our time preference and having good quality things, because the argument is that the spirit of the money, of credit, of basically money with no measurement, has affected our consumption. It's affected our outlook on life. It's affected our ability to plan ahead and build good things. So right away, you can reject some of the communism pieces, and we might not even have to reject them outright. It looks like some of this stuff is getting rejected straight up. So go to China now. They just had their recent huge conference, whatever, for the Communist Party. It happens twice every 10 years, and that's where they pick their leader and they pick all the different positions. Huge drama this morning, huge drama. Hu Jintao, the previous president of China before Xi, sitting next to him, because that's the way they do it, right? They sit in the order of when they sat as president, was escorted out of the room just before the important votes came about. And people have been analyzing. There's some secret footage that's come out. It'll probably get suppressed. But you can see already that Hu Jintao tries to argue with the people pulling him away. Xi ignores it, pretends it's not happening. He tries to take a paper with him from the table. He's not allowed. Hu Jintao tries to take paper with him. He's not allowed. It's put down. And then he taps the president of China on the shoulder and is like, come on, what the hell? Can you help me? And the president just dismisses him. Right? So he's left away. Now he's old. Who knows? Maybe he was shitting his pants and he stunk. Right? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. We'll probably not know today or maybe tomorrow. Who knows? We'll hear rumors. We'll find out. Fog of war. Difficult to say. But he's an old guy, right? Could have been health. Who knows? But it didn't look like it. It looked really suspicious, and it looked like Hu did not want to go. So they pulled him out anyway. This comes amidst all kinds of change, over there. We've got Jonathan Cheng here saying, and this is a Kevin Rudd quote, under Xi, ideology drives policy more than any other way around. Xi has pushed politics to the Leninist left, economics to the Marxist left, and foreign policy to the nationalist right. Xi's rise has meant the return of the ideological man. And it looks like that's true. It looks like it's true. It looks like Xi is now pushing for absolute change. And you can tell, we discussed yesterday a little bit about his vocabulary, in his speech. Until now, everything about these new leader speeches every time has been about the economy. The implicit deal in communist China is that as long as you make us rich, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, can do as it wishes, right? That's been the deal since Mao left. So everything's been about economic growth, and as long as that happens, the Chinese Communist Party gets the benefit of the doubt, right, from the mass amount of people. But when the economy is struggling, they got to make a pivot because they can't sell the same story. We're not even getting the data. We're not even getting the data anymore. This has been going on for days now, where all of the data in the Chinese economy, let me find these, has been suppressed. So Chinese stock traders were ordered not to disrupt the market around the meeting. They were closed down. Brokers, fund managers, everyone received guidance to reduce market volatility. They delayed the GDP numbers till after. Why would anyone delay economic numbers? Is it because they're so good, right? Is it because they're so good? None of the biggest domestic media outlets reported it. Retail sales weren't reported. Property sales weren't reported. Fixed asset investment, foreign investment holdings of yuan-denominated bonds, nothing was released. All of it was ignored, right? Everything. So what does that mean for China now? It means that even in a communist country, right? Even in a communist country, what I'm saying is the argument to Ye West's plan, is it's communism, right? If we create a town that has all these services and everything provided for people and is much easier and collective and all that, it starts to sound like communism, right? It starts to sound like communism. What I'm saying is communism, in the way we see it over there, is just as affected by the dollar issues, by the money being printed by the government itself, and the kind of extended power that is given them. It's nothing like someone bringing community together when he's not talking about printing his own money. He's not talking about a financial system. He's talking about some service provision and basically a system where logistics and human interaction takes care of most of our main problems. Not a government program, not a institution, really just smart design. It's really give stuff to the people instead of what we see now. I mean, it looks like there's going to be no electricity in Ukraine for the winter. They've been, they call them the Doritos, these Iranian falling drones that hit targets and explode and blow up, and they look like Dorito chips coming out of the sky. Remember, on this show, we've been talking about how drones are the only thing that matters in war and the hypersonic and space anymore, right? Tanks, all that other stuff is garbage. It's finished. It doesn't work anymore. What they're doing now with the drones, you're not hearing a lot about Ukrainian advancements anymore, are you? Right? What you're hearing about in the news is this power station's destroyed. They're shooting down drones over Kiev, and it looks like the drone wars have begun, right? The drone wars have. And it's not going to stop. The drones are the future of war. There's no way a government wouldn't choose cheap, no loss of life drones to fund millions of proxy wars. And you're going to see individual barbarian warlord types do the same. Why not, right? Why not? Let's see. Become TV shows. Yeah. I'll get to these quotes in a second. So now we've got China that even, that even with all of this trouble, right? We've got what's going on in Ukraine, the drones, looks like the war machines are changing, but we have an opportunity to create an experimental country there. We can create an experimental kind of society there. Now, go over to China again, right? They've got all these signs that have gone viral now. They've got viral signs for the protests, pictures that came up about kill the traitor, get rid of the traitor, Xi. And it's starting to take off, where the only place where there's no security cameras in China are the washrooms. and they're starting to call it the bathroom revolution. Everyone's repeating so we talked about it on this show. They'd put a banner over a highway, a walkway, or an overpass, pardon me. And normally you can't do that. Like, those people are gone. They managed to do it, took pictures. The pictures managed to filter out throughout China. They went a little viral, but now they've gone viral globally. And people are reprinting it. They did it on the Tower Bridge in London. They did it, and they hung the exact same banners on the Tower Bridge in London. They did it outside of the Chinese consulate in Manchester. They've done it all over. And now it's going throughout washrooms in China because, again, it's the only place where there's no cameras. So there's no cameras in any of these Chinese washrooms, and everyone's reprinting the exact protest words that were hung from that bridge. My prediction is, how are they going to deal with the graffiti going into the washrooms and spreading? People are calling it the toilet revolution because Xi actually was elected. One of the main routes to power that he took was something called the toilet revolution, which was trying to get actual just toilets to the countryside and irrigation. If any of you guys have ever visited China, it's such a big country, right? It's so different, every part from the other. You got to remember, this is a country that's as big as Europe or America, and way more people. And the difference between the wealthiest and the poorest is even greater than we're probably used to in Europe. Even if you count all of Eastern Europe, it's still a much bigger difference. So there are parts of China that would be, really tough for foreigners to live in, or Westerners, because no toilets, kind of dirty. Not like that in Shanghai and some of those places. It's just a very complicated country with a lot going on. So you can find these places there. And one of the reasons why he was able to get elected was pushing this, he was pushing the toilet revolution. So the toilet revolution is coming back to haunt him now. People have repurposed the brand name and are pushing it forward. And so it's not good. Now, we talk about education happening in China and in America. In China, what they do to the kids now is they're not allowed using the internet during the day. All of their online games are streaming television. They basically go to school from 7, 8 in the morning till 7, 8 at night. Rote learning, mostly memorization, going in groups, doing coordinated dances, coordinated gymnastics, that kind of thing, right? Because it's a group activity and it's very good to learn about how to work in groups in their system. Now in America, right, we have as many education problems as they do over there. While they force them to watch the TikTok stuff over there, in America, we've got, this is from the US currency. So they're looking to teach middle schoolers and strengthen their algebra skills. So Cash Codebreakers is an interactive escape game designed to help students sharpen their math abilities while also having fun. And this is from the US currency, the department that creates the actual bills, the specie, and they push this out to kids. This is a pretty good joke. This is from Walker America. And he says, so this is an education program in the United States trying to teach people to use money and help them with their algebra skills using US dollars and these fake, dollar systems. Walker America says, does it teach kids how to escape from perpetual monetary debasement? Not really. Meanwhile, in Milwaukee, the teachers union has piloted a remote teachers for in-person classes while there's not enough teachers to teach the kids, because all these teachers are quitting the public school system because it's a tough environment, especially in inner cities. So they're trying to peddle in urban places like Milwaukee, which is just north of Chicago in America, if you don't know American geography. They're trying to push that the kids will come to school, but the teacher will be on Zoom. How do you think that's going to go? How do you think a bunch of kids in a public school setting are going to behave on a... Should be back. So are they going to learn? Are they going to do any of these things? Let's be honest, it's not going to happen. So again, it's saying YouTube troubles again. YouTube troubles. I'm getting warnings here. 1 second. Anyone out there on YouTube having troubles? Let me know. So here's the thing about Ye's plan. Again, we're good on YouTube, good. So here's the thing about Ye's plan. We've got Chinese education, crazy, crazy. American education, crazy, 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 crazy. Right? We push on this show very often charter schools as a solution. Right? We push charter schools as a solution. The problem with charter schools is that it still requires active parents. What Ye's plan here is suggesting is we can get to that Bitcoin world of education where it's all P2P, where we're educating our friends, our community members, where you can actually manage the problem of not involved parents. And what I see when they're comparing Ye's city plan to Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, that's the kind of stuff that will fix it, that will make that true, that his vision will be as great as theirs, because that's what it comes down to with education. We need systems that are communal, that help everybody, that don't require you to have an active mother and an active father. Of course, that's the best situation. We want to promote any system that gives you a mother and a father, or whatever family unit works, right? But people who are adults, who are attentive to you and taking care of you and helping you get educated. But not everyone's going to have that. I've said on this show many times, waiting for that is like waiting for my magic wand to be more powerful so that I can wish it and then we could just get what we want. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. And charter schools are great, but we got to go one step further. And of course, it's not the Chinese plan of limiting information and forcing you to watch this and forcing that. And you got to play a game with the other students and you got to learn how to do all these things with them at the same time as them and all that other stuff. It looks like Ye's going to experiment, and he's already got a school, right? He's got his choir school, the Donde, I can't remember the exact name, but he's already got the school. They're going to teach financial literacy, skills, design, all the kind of things that will be useful in the modern world. So, oh, Audio Innovation said, yeah, it glitched with me. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It must be on the YouTube side. I'm getting weird signals from it all morning. We'll see. So that's what's going on in Milwaukee, right? They're actually, and these guys who are trying to get elected, right? They're in the midst of an election around these issues about education, and they're going with, here's Zoom teacher. They do that here where I live in Vermont too. The public schools last few years have lost so many students, so many teachers, that I think they started this year at just the local elementary school, which my children do not go to because we homeschool them. At just the local elementary school here in my town, I think they're missing, normally they would have about 15 teachers for the year. I think they were missing like half at the beginning of the year. I don't know how they've adapted, right? I wish I could help, but I can't. Maybe one day, but it's not possible right now. They have no teachers down there. It's unbelievable. So there you go. That's what I think is really important about Kanye West School. We see what's going on in China. We see what's going on with the education systems in America. You know, the loneliness, the inability. You know, schools in America are basically child abuse right now. It's basically child abuse, right? It's so tough. It's so tough. They can't turn off the social media. There's all kinds of bullying going on. Anytime they try to stop them from bullying, obviously the adults can't win. You know, if you put hundreds of kids the same age into a social group and you sprinkle in a couple of adults, well, they're going to make their own social hierarchies. They're going to make their own order. They're going to make all their own stuff. And the old people, who are few in numbers, are just going to be losers. They're going to be at the bottom of the hierarchy. And that's how it's been in American schools for a long time. I mean, when I went to school, we had nice teachers and da-da-da, but the students ran the show, right? We ran the show. It wasn't bad. It's great. There was no abuse. There was no, kids never got hit or anything like that. We could pretty much do what we wanted. I went to school way in the forest, and it was not tough to get along with the teachers, and most of the stuff was sort of done for us. And it was fun at the time. There weren't a lot of options in the world. We didn't have the internet really at a scale that you could plug it into your education and it could take over for a lot of what is missing. We had schools for so long because that's where the books were. And once the books went into the air, the reason to go to the place with the books and gather that many children who are the same age in one place is kind of gone. And now that you can see the effects of gathering too many people the same age in one place and what it does to their own social orientation. I mean, I met a couple homeschool kids the other day. Here's one of the tests you can always tell if a kid is homeschooled versus public school. It's a weird thing, but now that I say it to you, you'll notice it all the time if you're looking for it. Homeschool kids know how to talk to adults. That's it, right? If a homeschool kid sees an adult, they'll say, "Hi, my name is," right? Public school kids, I'm at 1 or 2 in 100, honestly. What mostly happens in public school kids is they just see adults as like furniture. They're like the walls or a locker or a bureau, and they just run around you. They don't care. Like, they don't care. And you'll see it, parents of friends get treated the same way. You know, when a kid goes over and visits another house, and they're all public school kids, it's really common to see a kid who's doesn't really have normal manners with adults because they're not taught that kind of stuff in public school. It's about getting along with kids your own age. Everything's about adults helping those kids do the same thing as the kid next to them. When I was in Brooklyn, my kids were playing in a park, and they brought a whole group of 4 or 5-year-olds over with, like, I mean, it's a rich part of Brooklyn. You're in Dumbo, everyone there is making a lot of money for sure, and whatever preschool they're going to is probably super expensive. Like, I can only guess, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month easily. They had, for 15 students, 7 adults. This was the kids' playtime. They got to it's a huge, it was like a boat, many swings, slides, all kinds of crazy stuff. My kids can go anywhere. The whole thing's fenced in, so who cares where they go? And it's all like a rubber mat on the bottom, so even if you fall, no big deal. They bring all the kids in. They're all wearing security vests, like bright, shiny security vests. The 7 teachers go to every place on this big jungle gym, like the big play construction, block off anything where you could fall, like on a fireman's pole or like a monkey bars to get off or on. They block all that. There is a long ramp on it from one section to the other. And this is what they do for 25 minutes. No kidding. They block every entrance. They force the kids on a loop, right? It's kind of like it was kind of like an infinity loop like this, right? They ran down a ramp, went under a thing, went back up the stairs, trucked along, You saw the 15 kids do that straight for 20 minutes, nothing else. One kid tried to, because like I said, the jungle gym was a big pirate ship. He tried to pilot the ship. There's like a wheel. Parents didn't say no, it wasn't dangerous, but or the teachers didn't say no, it wasn't dangerous. But other kids said, "Come on, come with us," right? He couldn't go on his own. Yeah, hamsters in a cogwheel. Couldn't go alone, right? My kids tried to play with them, and they were just like, "Come run with us," right? Kids could take a break. Everything was encouraged, right? That's all positive. The parents encouraging. But that's all the exercise was. It was running in a loop, getting the dopamine of encouragement, and they were allowed to take a break, and then they're encouraged to go run again. And the whole thing didn't last 20 minutes, and then they went back inside. That was it. That was park day. Like, compare that to what homeschool kids do. I take my kids to the park every day. I sit down and I let them play. Sometimes I'll go, they want to make me a fake ice cream. I play with them a little, but in general, I'm into them just getting their own creative frequencies going and let them, bliss out with their creativity. And they do, right? They have a great time. So that's that. So let's talk about a few other things before we keep going. I was going to talk a bit about all the stuff happening in the economy. The yen having trouble. It looks like the Fed is signaling that a pivot might be coming, but we'll save that for the week. Before we go, let's talk about that Google thing. So here's what happened. I already admit the Drunk Champs video ends up getting taken down, and even the owner of the Drunk Champs apologized for giving Kanye or Ye a platform. Can you imagine? Apologize for it. But looks like Ye might have survived. That's the good news. But Google, on the other hand, this is going to look bad, especially when compared to the following. So it looks like Elon Musk's attempt to buy Twitter is coming under scrutiny from the US federal government. And, the fact that the White House is weighing the national security risk of Musk buying Twitter shows you just how much the US government seems to think the platforms themselves are part of their overall propaganda strategy, or at least is already co-opted to be part of their strategy. So it looks like the US officials have grown uncomfortable over Musk's, this is from Bloomberg, recent threat to stop supplying the Starlink satellite service to Ukraine. He said it cost him $80 million so far. And what they see as his increasingly Russia-friendly stance following a series of tweets that outline peace proposals favorable to President Vladimir Putin. They are also concerned by his plans to buy Twitter with a group of foreign investors. The discussions are still in an early stage. The people familiar with the condition of anonymity, officials in the US government and intelligence community are weighing what tools, if any, are available that would allow the federal government to review Musk's ventures. One possibility is through the law governing the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States to review Musk's deals and operations for national security risks. Unbelievable. So what they're basically saying is that they don't want this. It's vital to the U.S. I love how they call it the intelligence community. Community, like the intelligence community. Okay, we'll see how smart they are. So they're going to try and block it, right? They're going to try and block Elon Musk doing this. Now, this could probably suit Elon just fine, right? I don't know if he totally is all in. I continue to believe that the best thing to do was what he's doing. You force them to have a conversation about the bots. You force them to be liars to all their advertisers because you had the conversation about the bots. You force that conversation into the public so that they know that Twitter isn't as full of people as they've said it is. And then that actually gives a lot of attention and credibility and possibility to people's imaginations when they think of Truth and they think of Parler and they think of the Twitter's competitors. Because the whole point of Twitter, and the reason why I would use Twitter over any of these other ones, is that I want to hear the other side too. I want as many people there in the public space as I can. Otherwise, it's not that fun. You want conflict, you want fighting, you want contrast, right? And if there's no contrast in social media, it can be pretty boring. And it's not just about the thrills, right? The point is to see two sides and try and synthesize an answer through them. But it looks like they're going to try and block it, which would be probably fine with him. Right? It would probably be fine with Musk. And in the end, it would do way more damage to the US government, I think, than if he just bought it himself. But nevertheless, what we see is an education plan and now a social media strategy out of Ye and Musk that looks like an answer to both U.S. Let's call it intelligence obstruction and framing of debate around the whole country, right? Let's call it that. And so if it's true that they're trying to do this, I think it does more harm to them in the end than good. And we can only hope. Right? So that's it. That's what I got for today. Let's see. Huru says, add that Ye even gave his daughter his name. No balls at all, but money has bigger balls after all. Norre. Yeah, there you go. All right, team, did I forget anything today? It's not my daughter's official birthday, but we're having a birthday party for her today because we'll be headed to Toronto for a few days next week when her real birthday is. All right, team. Happy weekend.